Let's thank the participants and we'll call the next case. The next case is the case of the Not So Confirmatory Conclusion. This is Brian Smith of the Seven Minors Institute. His dopey pharmacometrics colleague is making confirmatory conclusions from exploratory studies. Doc Smith is never bashful about voicing his opinion, but this colleague doesn't listen, and he's losing sleep about it. This is making him grumpy. This is Nag Chematuri. He would be happy if Doc Smith stops badgering him about his pharmacometrics analyses. His list of covariates is nothing to sneeze at, and he's doing his best in digging deep to mine the data, which makes him happy. He's accused of inflating the significance of a covariate effect in a population pharmacokinetic analyses. Judge, both parties have already been sworn in.
Dr. Chematuri, you are charged with inflating the significance of a covariate effect in a population pharmacokinetic analysis. How do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Can you tell me a little bit about the analysis in question?
Sure. I work at the Seven Minors Institute, related to sleep disturbances. We are a leading company and help our patients get quality sleep, high quality sleep. We know that poor sleep patterns not only affect the patient's quality of life, but also have long-term health consequences.
I know this very well, but tell me about your research.
Well, you must have seen the ads on TV. They're for a new natural product, Sleep Aid, Sleeping Beauty, Sleep Beautiful, by, Evil Queen, Queen and Hag Inc.
Sure, they have that catchy jingle. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, little princess.
See, it's great, isn't it? Even you remember it. Our clinicians, of course, are very excited about this product, because, of course, nobody knows how it works, really, but, we have made boatloads of money. We have had tremendous success with it. Helped our patients a lot.
Okay, that sounds exciting, yet we are no closer to your research in question.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. You disturbed me with your Sleeping Beauty ad and everything. So I can get a little dopey too, I'm sorry. There is an apparently idiosyncratic reaction that occurs with this product in 1/10 of 1% of the patients. It appears they actually go into a zombie-like state once they take the product.
That is terrible.
It's not so bad, we're trying to help induce sleeps and they go into a zombie-like state, but, we found out quite by accident that, somebody who loves them gives them a peck on the cheek, a kiss, they wake up fresh. In fact, we found out that, one of their dogs, patient's dog gave them licked them on their mouth and they actually woke up. So it's pretty strange, but, it works.
I'll say.
The thing is, once you go into the zombie-like state, you're not anxious anymore about taking this product. You're not anxious about anything, in fact. And this seems to be driven in part by really high concentrations of Potion X. We have seen that, some of these patients have high concentrations. It seems to be driven by that. But there are also patients, who don't have something like that and they still have this accelerated sleep onset. Which made us, of course, suspect, there could be other patient-related covariates that might be responsible for this. And that is where, our research goal came in. What factors affect high concentration and what other additional factors or covariates are there?
This all sounds reasonable. Tell me more.
So we recruited, 24 subjects to participate in the sleep study. And we also had 47 concentrations collected from 47 patients. 10 minutes after they were dosed. We started doing this in order to know if we needed to call a loud one. These people go into zombie-like state, so we needed somebody to come and give them a loving kiss.
All right, can you describe the design and analysis in a little more detail?
Certainly, Your Honor. The sleep study was a randomized, parallel group, placebo-controlled, 3-dose level study with a sample size of 6 subjects per treatment group. 10 pharmacokinetic samples were collected over time. Subject sleep onset was determined by EEG. And, we were looking at correlations between adverse event and PK, adverse event and sleep onset. New patients were, of course, asked to first try the medication in our sleep lab. and that is how data from the 48 patients was obtained. The PK model that was used was a one compartment model with first order absorption. For sleep onset, we related the predicted concentration at 10 minutes with sleep onset using an Emax model.
And what did you find?
We found statistically significant relationship between body weight and clearance, a statistically significant relationship between creatinine clearance and clearance. We also found a statistically significant relationship between Emax value and gender. There also seemed to be women seem to be more prone to this than were men. We also found that younger people had a bigger effect than older people, and that is how we found that Miss Aurora Rose and Bianca Snow, both young, actually showed this effect, this zombie-like effect. But coming to the more interesting point, we found that there was a big correlation between silk pajamas and sleep onset.
Silk pajamas?
Yeah, exciting, isn't it? When you find something like that, silk pajamas. Yes, wearing silk pajamas actually caused a 37% reduction in sleep onset. This is a landmark discovery,
Really?
I think we should get Nobel Prize for that.
But, really? But what in the world would make you think wearing sleep pajamas might have an effect? Why was it measured, and why would you examine this?
Well, we at the Seven Miners Institute, we pride ourselves on doing things like, what is the effect of having a pea under your, pillow and your mattress, in fact. So we pride ourselves, we are interested in learning about all components, that can impact the quality of sleep, an individual's ability to sleep. And this includes sleep attire, their pillow, their accessories, the bed, mattresses, flat bed, and all that sort of stuff. So we did some early work on My Pillow. We also studied the sleep number of the bed. Anyway, we routinely collect all sorts of things like, are they wearing flip-flops before the bed and all that.
Do you have anything further to add?
No, Your Honor. I think that's pretty much summarizes it.
I could probably make a ruling at this point. But I'd like to hear your case.
If it pleases the court, I'd like to ask the defendant a few questions.
Dr. Smith, in this courtroom, I normally ask the questions, but I will allow it. Dr. Chematuri?
Yes, Your Honor.
Remember, you took an oath to tell the truth.
I always tell the truth. Nothing but the truth and the only truth.
Okay, so the publication that you wrote only discusses the covariates that were statistically significant and does not discuss to any extent those that were not significant. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We only wanted to focus on the most important findings. The rest of the stuff, we just kind of... And of course, there is a word limit on how many words you can have according to the journal. So, we only publish the most important findings.
I see, but could you tell us what covariates you examined?
We were very thorough in our work. It kind of hurts me when you ask this question. We wanted to leave no diamond unmined, sort of, to say we looked at a ton of covariates.
So how many covariates did you examine?
34 diamonds, 34 total covariates.
So you examine each covariate on clearance, volume, and distribution in Emacs?
Absolutely, with the exception that sleep accessory covariates were only investigated for Emacs in the PK-PD model.
And lastly, may I ask, what type of covariates did you examine?
Demographics, flip-flops, pajamas, baseline characteristics, baseline lab values, concomitant medications, of course, and, sleep accessory data.
Sleep accessory data?
As I said, type of flip-flops, the type of bed they're sleeping on, the type of pillow, hard pillow, medium, soft pillow, etc., type of sheets.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
I will give you each time for a closing statement.
Okay, well, first remember that something is statistically significant if the p-value is less than some pre-chosen value. In this case, the author chose 0.05. This means that the probability of getting the effect that we observed or something more extreme, if there is no effect, is less than 5%. Thus, suppose you have 34 covariates, and so there's 102 covariate tests that you made. You'd expect at least 5 of those to be significant, just if none of them were. You expect at least 5 of them to be significant just to start out with that weren't real. Another way to think of this, if you could show the slide, please. Okay. And this is kind of thinking about this in a Bayesian term, but look, if you have a good reason to expect something is an important effect beforehand, then you'll see the true probability is 80%. You'll see the chance that you have a false claim is only 1.5%. But if, on the other hand, the true probability of it really being an effect is only 5%, then most of your claims will be false claims. So I think what this kind of shows you is this kind of proves the 7 minors, as far as Sleepler is concerned, is kind of silly. In essence, they should have known not to even look at that, because basically they should have known beforehand. And by looking at it, they should have suspected there was a high chance that they would have a false positive with it, even if it was statistically significant. Okay.
Dr. Chematuri, any last remarks?
Sure, Your Honor. I mean, my colleague here at 7 Miners Institute, instead of mining for diamonds, he's showing a lot of statistical mumbo-jumbo. Now, think about this, what I did was not only follow precedents, but also, standard practice, not only in US, but across the continents. And you can pick up any journal, any standard, reputed journal, and see, what I did is the same practice that is followed by others. If I am guilty of anything, it is that I am following conventional scientific practice.
Judge Kowalski, what's your ruling?
I'll now present my thoughts on this case and pertinent precedent as published in the statistical and pharmacometrics literature before making my ruling. So first, let's talk about the differences between learning versus confirming. Learning has a focus on estimation and prediction. And in his famous seminal paper on learning versus confirming, Shiner states, and I'll quote, "Analysis of a learning trial, estimating the response surface requires that scant observations at many points on the surface be somehow linked to yield a coherent picture." Now contrast that with a confirming trial where the focus is on hypothesis testing. And again, stating from Shiner's seminal work, and I quote, "For the simplest confirmatory designs and sharpest null hypotheses, virtually no assumptions whatever are needed. No unproved a priori assumptions means unequivocal conclusions. This is the great strength of a well-designed and executed confirmatory study. When the null hypothesis is rejected, the meaning is clear and unequivocal." Again, these are excerpts from Dr. Shiner's paper. Covariant model building is essentially a learning activity and is exploratory in nature. The focus is on estimation and prediction and how patients and subjects across a wide range of demographic and prognostic factors are related. The primary goal of stepwise covariant modeling is to obtain a final parsimonious model with reduced prediction error relative to other covariant models that could be considered. Covariant modeling procedures such as SEM do not lend themselves easily to confirmatory conclusions of statistical significance. Now, if we want to talk about statistical significance, it is an inherently a confirmatory type statement. A p-value associated with a statistical hypothesis test is a measure of the strength of the evidence of the effect. The validity of a p-value, though, requires pre-specification of the model, or maybe a set of models, and hypothesis tests to prevent bias. A paper by Edwards in 1999 on model pre-specification in confirmatory randomized studies is pertinent here. In addition, multiplicity of testing further complicates the assessment of statistical significance. A few statistically significant covariate effects from 50+ likelihood ratio tests that achieve a certain magnitude of the LRT statistic, likelihood ratio test statistic, do not convey the same strength of evidence as a single hypothesis from a pre-specified model that achieves this same magnitude of the likelihood ratio test statistic. The false positive rate increases with the number of hypothesis tests performed. A a paper that describes this well is an introduction to multiplicity and issues in clinical trials, the what, why, when, and how by Dr. Lee. A better approach might be, if you're interested in making a confirmatory type conclusion with a statistical hypothesis test, would be to consider a full covariate modeling approach, which may be more appropriate for dealing with the multiplicity of testing. And there's a paper by Zhu et al. In 2018 on the full covariate modeling approach in population pharmacokinetics, understanding the underlying hypothesis tests and implications of multiplicity. So there's a couple of statements here from that article. I quote, "The false positive rate, FPR, for the full covariate modeling approach dramatically increases with the number of covariates. The chances of incorrectly selecting more than one seemingly clinically relevant covariate can be increased from 5% to 40 to 70% range for 10 to 20 covariates. In this situation, we're dealing with considerably more than 10 to 20 covariates, I note. But these authors suggest that instead of calculating p-values of individual tests or to construct univariate confidence intervals for each covariate effect, they suggest a simultaneous confidence interval approach that may provide appropriate control of the family-wise false positive rate collectively at the 5 or 10% level across all the tests that one would be interested in performing."
Judge Kowalski, may I interrupt? There's another case in this courtroom in the next few minutes, so I was wondering if you could just skip right to your verdict.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will the defendant please rise? You really messed up there. I find the defendant guilty of inappropriately drawing confirmatory conclusions using statistically significant terminology in reporting his exploratory pharmacometrics analysis. Defendant should be aware of the following limitations with standard pharmacometric practice in attempting to draw confirmatory conclusions. First, it is difficult to fully pre-specify pharmacometric models. Flexibility in postulating models while fitting the data is necessary in order to ensure good fitting models. It is difficult to quantify the strength of evidence from the results of an SCM approach because of the multiplicity of testing. If the defendant desires to make claims of statistical significance, a full covariate modeling approach may be better. However, pre-specification may still be an issue since there can be a fair amount of exploratory base model development before a full model is postulated. Moreover, in practice, the data often cannot be supported fitting a full model even with 30 or more covariate effects. I hereby order the defendant to cease using statistically significant terminology when referring to the set of covariate predictors, including the final model for all future pharmacometric responses and publications. The defendant should know that in my own pharmacometric path, I hold myself to the same standard. In the following publications, I advocate avoiding the use of statistically significant terminology and reporting p-values for exploratory cases.
I truly believe I'm not
The case
guilty.
is adjourned.
I truly believe I'm not guilty. I'm going to appeal to the Supreme Court.
Justice Corrigan, I thought I saw you in my courtroom. What are you doing here? Are you spying on me?
Well, Judge Kowalski, we've all been spying on you for the last 15 years through all your summary judgments on the NM Users Forum. And we have some concerns about your cases. So I am here at the request of one. So with that, let's get started. Got it. So I'll go through some of the things. I've heard the evidence. Oh, and by the way, we're wearing the funny hair, so we're not in an American court, so we're in a Canadian court, and there they call us
My lord.
yeah, yes. That has a very nice ring to it. All right, so I've heard the evidence, and in interest of time, I'm going to lower your gavel. I rule you overruled. Get to that slide, where is that? And I find the defendant guilty.
Wait a minute. I found the defendant guilty. Already. You just wanted to overrule me, my lord.
Yeah, I've been waiting to say that to you, Ken, for 25 years.
Go ahead.
All right. So we'll just very quickly wrap it up. We find you guilty, and as Ken had mentioned, the use of p-values is not recommended, as noted in the 2019 American Statistical Association manuscript, Moving to the World Beyond P. So with that, I believe that we're all going to be kicked out of here immediately. Stacy is telling us. I will call today's session to a close. Thank you very much.
Don't leave yet, don't leave yet.
Don't leave yet. Thank you.
The participants up to the stage, please. Matt, come on up too. I'm skipping ahead, Ken. All right, these are all of our cases for today. Ken, do you have any last remarks?
Yes, I do. Well, bailiffs, this appears to be the last of our cases for today, but I'd like to make some closing remarks to those in the courtroom as well as the gallery. Stay out of trouble, stay in school, don't make the same mistakes, statistical mistakes that your colleagues have. I don't want to see any of you in my courtroom in the future.
And we would like to note that the issues in the rulings are endorsed by the SXP, the Statistics and Pharmacometrics Special Interest Group, and they are not just the sole views of Judge Ken. And so we'd like to end, as we always do, with the credits. Let's give everybody a hand. Thank you everybody for coming.